Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's great to see you again, and I know I'm starting things off in kind of an unusual manner than what you're used to seeing here. And that's okay, because this is one of those occasions where I feel like it is appropriate to do so. You'll see behind me on the table I have a bevy of figures yet again. This time it's not a countdown or anything of that nature. You'll notice that I have the Titan class Fortress Maximus, the Titan class Devastator, Combiner Wars, Computron, and Menasor. I have two versions of the Transformers Prime Predaking, and I even have Primus in his robot mode. What do all of these have in common? Fair question. They're all part of an introduction that I want to do, that I want to give to you guys before we go on with the next set of reviews that I have coming up. This is kind of your chance, your insider's look at the mind of a collector, at least one collector, and that's not saying it's a mind you necessarily want to get inside of, but it's how I sort of think about things, and it's sort of an introduction because I didn't want to just do the next set in terms of discussing the figures that are coming up. I wanted to kind of set things up for it, and I kind of bellyached for a while about how to do it. So stick around, because this is kind of the start of my quest, of my trek, if you will, to explore my personal Predaking dilemma in the latest GotBot True review. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I am your host, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, please like, comment, share, and most importantly now, subscribe. What can I say? Join the wave. Check out Machinery Man, the Everything Factor, me everywhere, and I mentioned a few moments ago how this is going to be the start of my Predaking dilemma. We're going to kind of take a quick trip here back several years, up to kind of where we are now. It's not a history lesson or anything like that. You'll see as we start going through here. Very first thing I want to do is give a couple of shout outs to Wayne and Jim and John. All of them helped me to be able to put this little introduction together for you. It is invaluable. By the way, for John in particular, he has a Facebook page known as Transformers All Day, Every Day. Please check it out. I'm going to leave a link down in the description so you can get to it from there. He's doing some interesting things and exciting things over there as well. So, we're going right back to when I was a young lad and Combiner started to come out in the Transformer line. We had a Bruticus and we had a Computron and a Menasor and so on and so forth, but the one who stood head and shoulders above them all was a character by the name of Predaking. And like so many others, I was absolutely enamored with the guy, and he was huge compared to the other ones. Nevertheless, I never managed to get my hands on him, but he always stuck with me because I thought it was such a unique, cool, and I guess imposing sort of style.
And here you can see what I was talking about earlier. In the back we have Predaking, who is indeed larger than his Decepticon brethren. He's joined here by Devastator out front, Bruticus and Menasor to his sides. But of course that's not the whole story, and we need to see the big man by himself in all of his glory, and that's what we have here thanks to John. Now, at this point, normally I would kind of start harping on the animation model, but you see, Season 3 of the original Transformers series was known, well known, for having notorious animation errors. Predaking was no exception. Sometimes his feet were gray, sometimes they were red. He would typically have a lot of gold in his abdomen section. Of note, however, there was one thing that stayed consistent. His wings. In the animation, his wings had orange kind of detailing on the tops, and the wings themselves were black instead of this glorious, gorgeous gold. As for the arms weren't quite this color. The The one on the left would indeed be orange and red, but the one on the right did not in the animation ever have as much black. The legs, well, the thighs would be red, and that was pretty consistent, and the lower legs are fairly accurate here. But I don't think we can measure his color as we usually do when we look at the animation because there was such variance among it. So perhaps for this one time only, we need to look at accuracy as it relates to the toy version of the figure. I suppose I should also note something else that tended to stay consistent. His shoulder cannons were always black. That will be kind of important later on. Nevertheless, this guy sort of stood as the representation of that character for a long time with upgrade sets and whatnot, being re-released, I believe, in 2004 and 2010, if not more often than that.
So as you can see, when we start off talking about this character and this combiner, he has kind of complicated roots when we're looking at how to measure things in relation to him. It's not an easy task to accomplish because the animation really differed significantly from the toy. Still, I think we all have an idea in our mind of what sort of works and what doesn't work. And then we came to Transformers Prime. And the earliest recollection of the name Predaking before that was probably in 2010 when we had the G1 reissue. I think it was some sort of a platinum thing. Maybe it was even a platinum release that came after that. I vaguely remember one around 2013 when Transformers Prime introduced us to this version of Predaking, or the one next to him, if you will. This guy or this guy. I looked at both of them in episodes 210 and 211 a long time ago. And I like both of them. But guess what? They're not combiners. So they're not exactly able to fill the bill for what I need. In fact, they're not even supposed to be a revisioning of that original character. They're supposed to be brand new characters. That's cool. I dig it. And I picked them up and I kind of built a little bit of a Predacon faction, if you will. But it still was not the original combiner that I knew and loved as a kid. And then we had 2015 come, and we were blessed with Combiner Wars. By now, as well, we'd also been introduced to Titan class figures. And we got things such as Superion and Bruticus. Fantastic. Both of them, great combiners, and I absolutely dig them. Not to say they're perfect and not to say that they're to everyone's taste. There's a lot of great third-party representations of these guys out there, and more recently we've even started to get some masterpiece versions. Nevertheless, for kind of the average consumer or somebody with a bit of a fixed budget, these guys sort of fill the bill to have a decent representation of those characters in your collection. I looked at everything to do with Computron in episode 149 and the custom work I did on him in episode 150. I looked at Bruticus a long time ago and compared him with the FOC version. That was way back in episodes 78 to 83. These guys stand approximately 11 to 12 inches in height. What's 11 to 12 inches? Somewhere around 28 to 30 centimeters for those who use the metric system. That's going to be kind of significant as we go through here. I got excited the more combiners we got. It was fantastic. And it reached a point where I said, the only ones left that I really feel and need to have that were really prominent would be Predaking and Abominus. We didn't get either during the Combiner Wars line. Too bad, so sad. We did, however, get a Titan class figure, that being the Mighty Devastator. Now, taking these guys out of it for a moment, we are left with three. Okay, so why does this matter? Because in about 2014, we were given versions, third-party, unofficial versions of Predaking. They were inspired by that character. We were given three. One was the TFC Ares, which certainly looks stylized very much like a beast, and fairly large. He stands at somewhere around 13, 14 inches, roughly speaking, very roughly speaking. However, he's not absolutely perfect. Yes, he has the girth, and yes, he has the size, but he doesn't really have a reputation for being particularly stable, nor particularly posable, and he looks kind of boxy. That's not to say that he's a bad option. He's not. We were also given Unique Toys Warlord, who we'll talk more about in a couple of minutes. And we were given MMC's Feral Rex. Now, I don't think that there's any debating among the fandom that Feral Rex reigns king supreme as the, kind of versions of Predaking that we have available to us at the moment, as of this recording, right now. There's also the KO version by JinBao of the Feral Rex Combiner. It's basically upscaled with a couple of minor tweaks. So, let's just quickly kind of review a couple of key points here. Ares. Boxy, not entirely posable, and not known for being the most stable. Fine, fair enough. With interesting, albeit stylized robot modes. I wish that I could show you kind of images of that, but I don't have any available here at the moment. Certainly, you can find him just about anywhere. And when he came out, his original price was somewhere around $500. Keep that in mind. He wasn't the only option, though, that was coming out around that time. We also had the mighty Feral Rex.
And indeed, here he is in all of his glory, and this guy is more art than toy. I mean, look at the molded in detail, the sculpting, the presence. Sure, the head is kind of stylized, and look at those lower legs. Boy, oh boy, he's been hitting the gym. However, there are things here that are highly accurate, such as the red thighs, and he has black shoulder cannons. That's something else Ares is kind of missing, because he does have red on those shoulder-mounted cannons. The wings on Ares are also black with just gold highlights. That's probably a little more color accurate to the animation, even though the shape of the wings is definitely not. This guy has a presence, and that's why he is definitely considered to be the winner in terms of representation of what we have for this character. It's why he is the king. The guy comes with some amazing accessories. The arm cannon, that can actually come apart to become individual pieces to go with the smaller robots when he's not combined. That massive sword, my understanding is that also comes apart. And the wing pack. Besides that, I do believe everything else is pretty much integrated or integratable with the figure, such as the feet being able to go on his backpacks. I'm not sure about the fists. I've heard, though, that they can go attached to the feet. And the head flips in. The waist skirt kind of becomes a shield. But again, this is a weakness with Ares. That arm cannon does not come apart. The wing pack on that is pretty flimsy from what I understand. In this case, though, there are 5 figures here. You have the option of adding a 6th, another cat, as one of the arms, based on the character of Catilla. That's an interesting option, and you can take Talon and put the wing pack and that entire figure on the back, though it does make him sort of back heavy. Nevertheless, if you only have the 5 as presented here, you can separate the wing pack from Talon and apply it to this Feral Rex Combiner. If you look at the back here, you'll notice there's kind of 4 holes and then a slot right in the middle. That's how it secures on, and it's fairly secure. The wings can angle back, and that's pretty effective for the most part. Either way, he comes with 3 things here that are impressive. As for that sword, take a look at the size of that thing. There have been reports that, depending on the tolerance of your copy, he either holds it really well or his arms sort of lack the strength to do it. I should also note here that this guy, just like Ares, has figures that are all the same size. My understanding is they're kind of like bulked up Voyager class figures. That's probably a good idea because it makes them more secure, more robust, and kind of better to handle overall. And that's probably why this guy is worth the asking price that he often gets. Of course, despite being known as the best of the bunch, that doesn't mean that he is for everybody. Because he's not. And he's not absolutely perfect, for as strong as he is. After all, you look at him, he is definitely a more bulked up version of the character. And that does offer things like articulation limitations, or at least challenges, such as his elbows, as you can see here. He is not going to get a 90-degree bend. His head does move nicely, the shoulders can move out and go all the way around on nice ratchets, no less. His legs can go forward and back, but you're not getting a very deep knee bend because they're so bulky. And his upper thighs kind of have a series of hinges where they can move. Now, they're all secure, and you're not going to worry about this guy falling over. In fact, you can even extend his legs to give him some extra height, which might be a good thing or a bad thing, considering your taste. The guy typically stands, as is reported, 12.5 inches or 13. That can be extended to about 14 or 15 inches. So he can be a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller depending on your taste. And that's probably a good thing. If your intention is to have a representation on your shelf, on display, then he's probably for you. But like I said, that doesn't mean that he suits everybody's needs or tastes.
And beyond that, we had Warlord.
And this guy probably had an uphill battle as soon as he was released, because unlike Ares and Feral Rex, he is actually made up of a basically Voyager size class body and 4 deluxe size class limbs. Yet, his original asking price was the same as the other two. You're getting less plastic for the same cost. That would be something that I could see a lot of people taking issue with. As far as size goes, he is comparable to the other ones in height, but certainly not in bulk. Perhaps slightly shorter. It is fair to say that with his wings extended and going to the top of, those wing pieces and his shoulder cannons, the guy probably stands, again, about 13.5 to 14 inches. In terms of coloring, this guy may be the best match for the G1 toy. In terms of being a match to the animation, well, that depends on what animation you're looking at. Nevertheless, it is absolutely, positively no mistaking who this guy is. Just like Ares and, more importantly, Feral Rex at this point, this guy comes with a bevy of accessories. A large sword, granted, it does not come apart, but depending on the tolerance of the wrists, he can hold it and secure it either very well or not that great. His arm cannon also can break apart to become accessories for the smaller characters when they're in their individual robot modes. The feet, at least in beast modes, can attach to the back. The weakness with this guy in terms of his accessories is that while the shoulder cannons can be integrated and the arm cannon, the sword really cannot. The feet only partially. The wing pack cannot. In fact, for the left arm, the one holding the sword, you have to remove a couple of wing pieces that some people have broken, which is unfortunate, though I kind of don't understand why. We'll talk about that another time. The hands cannot be integrated. The waist skirt cannot be integrated. So you do have pieces that need to go up to the side, and a lot of people dislike the notion of parts forming, and I totally understand that. It is perhaps worth noting too that the head also cannot stay integrated. It has to detach, although when it's on there, it's pretty darn secure. As for the backpack, it can be held in place because of a tab at the top of it and at the bottom of it, and it clips in on another couple of locations extremely tightly. That's the thing with this guy. Everything is really tight, but it's also, for the most part anyway, very secure. And that's something that definitely counts as a strength for him. Of course, all of that said, perhaps the greatest strength for this incarnation of that character is the fact that he is highly posable. You have double elbow bends, you have nice deep knees, you have legs that can go out to the side, ankle tilts. There's a lot here to like. But again, at the end of the day, for the original asking price, you're technically getting less plastic, and some people debate about the plastic. Again, we'll talk about that another time, but you're getting physically less plastic than you are with the other options.
Following the success of Rex, naturally, KO companies decided to kind of get in on it and took those molds, sort of tweaked them, upscaled them, made them bigger, and we get things like this. The JinBao version of Nero Rex, or I guess not Nero Rex.
And this Nero Rex color scheme layout, incorporating black, a brilliant purple, some grays and silvers, while it looks very nice, is obviously not accurate, though this guy does come in more traditional colors, and those are very similar to Feral Rex, with a few things swapped here and there. But basically the same sort of comments that could be made about him can be made about this guy. Now, the KO comes sort of in two versions, as is my understanding. A regular size one, which isn't quite as good. It's known for being loose and for missing certain hinges that can hinder transformation of the individual robot modes. This is the oversized version, as where the regular kind of ranges between 12 to 15 inches. This guy is more like 15 to 18 inches. He's made of a fantastic plastic and feels good in the hands. That being said, of course, you can have the same criticisms in terms of certain points of articulation and whatnot. The ratchets on this guy are very strong, a few of them a little bit scary, but he is absolutely solid and looks gorgeous to boot. Now, you may have noticed that his two shoulders were made up of cat-like creatures. This guy, unlike the Feral Rex we looked at earlier, incorporates all 6 team members. Something a little bit different, and we're going to talk about that shortly. But before we get there, let's look at the accessories. He comes with everything that you would expect him to come with. The swords and the blaster, and it all works the same way. But he also comes with certain upgraded parts, such as an alternate chest, alternate head, and alternate hands. That sort of really adds to him a lot and kind of helps to give him kind of a fuller and more unique look. Now, I mentioned the 6th figure. It's been noted several times that the cat arm is a better one. So why not have it on both sides? Plus, it helps symmetry. That being said, our winged bird friend can become the entire backpack, as you see here. He still basically just slots in, but it does make the guy very back heavy and difficult to stand. I still think that it's really interesting that this kind of alternate version is available, but again, it's certainly not G1 accurate. That being said, is it bad? Definitely not. I mean, look at the guy. It's still a brilliant figure, there's no doubt about it. And the last thing I wanted to mention here is that enormous sword, even bigger this time because he's oversized, and I'm telling you now, the thing is bigger than he is. I believe it stands 2 feet, and for those of you not in the know, that's about the size of Fortress Maximus, who I have on the table, or Metroplex, if you know that character.
And just recently, we learned that we were going to be getting a Titan class official release update, finally, of Predaking. That sounds fantastic. In fact, that's what I had been waiting for, and it's why I didn't really kind of buy into any of the other ones. But we've had sort of an interesting shift in 2 ways. One, we know now that we have an official Titan class version coming. And that's great. That's wonderful for those who want it. But let's kind of clarify what we could potentially be talking about here. Traditionally, a Titan class figure stands at about 2 feet tall, rather large. If you have one this big, then guess what? It's not going to scale with your about half the size Combiner Wars combiners. That would be unfortunate, because who do you kind of have Predaking square off against? Traditionally, one of his main foes would have been Skylynx, who most recently was released as a Voyager class figure, so perhaps a Titan might be too big. But I know what you're going to say. We've had a Titan class combiner before with Devastator. Indeed we did. And he was shorter, standing at about 18 inches. Made up of 6 Voyager class figures. Still with a somewhat significant price tag attached. Not as high as these third-party ones, but significant nevertheless, and that's to be expected and understood. He stands at about 18 inches. That's still kind of too tall in a lot of cases. It's certainly too tall compared to the 12 inches of the Combiner Wars figures. Not to say that he doesn't fit in places, but I could sort of buy with this guy because he's made up of 6 construction vehicles and they're typically much larger. So I can sort of buy the idea that he should be bigger. And now, for this upcoming one, we have 5 Voyager class figures, or so we're told. It'll be interesting to see how they come together. Presumably, we're going to have the Titan class price point, which around my neck of the woods is somewhere in the vicinity of generally $219 to $229. Canadian, of course. Let's keep that in mind for just a moment and talk about how big he's likely to be. Well, he could certainly be as big as this guy, but I doubt it because he has one less Voyager class figure included. If anything, he might be about the size of Primus. Now, that's fine, even if he's an inch or so taller. This is about 14 inches. And for 14 inches, I think we're talking somewhere around 31 to 35 centimeters in height. That's fine, but then the question becomes, is this size here worth that kind of price point? It's difficult to say. But that's not the only way the landscape is changing with an official Titan class release, and we still haven't seen it in full, though we have seen a prototype of the backpack. Of the 3 options that are currently out, all of them started off on the kind of the same price playing field, but even that's changing. The mighty Feral Rex still kind of rings in at his original price point of $500 US. Then we have Warlord, who has dropped to a surprising $120 US. We have Ares, who recently, from what I've seen, dropped to somewhere around $230 US. And we have, of course, the oversized KO version, which, to be fair, rings in at about, I think, around $160 US. I think. All of a sudden, we don't have a level playing field anymore. You have the cheapest option being Warlord. You have 2, we'll say, middle-of-the-road options. I would say the official upcoming Titan class release and Ares. And then at the top of the Predaking food chain, we still have Feral Rex, and understandably so. The thing is absolutely impressive. But is it a one-size-fits-all type of thing? I don't think so. Depending on your collecting habits and why you want a particular figure. Is it to play with or is it to just display? Different ones have different strengths. Needless to say, when you compare them across the board, yes, indeed, Feral Rex is going to win that. But he doesn't necessarily fit for everyone. And while he has been discussed a lot, along with the other options, over the last few years, I always feel like we're missing out on the opportunity to look at him in a contemporary light. And that's what I'm going to endeavor to do with the next set of reviews. Evaluate these, let you know which option I picked myself, and see, in terms of more commonly known, commonly recognized figures that even the average fan might have, how do these kind of stack up and compare with those? It wasn't an easy choice for me. I thought about all of them for a long time, and it was a difficult choice, but eventually I had to pick the one that suited me best. Is it Ares? Is it Feral Rex? Is it Warlord? Or the official entry that's going to be up and coming? Or even the KO option? Oh, such a Predaking dilemma I find myself in. So stick around, because next time when we come back, we're going to start off looking at these. However, before we do that, let's sort of eliminate what we can right now. The G1 version is out. Not that it's not fantastic, but the majority of my collection is not in the G1 realm. Obviously, if the majority of yours is, he's the option for you, hands down. And there's even been some upgrade kits for him that probably improve him overall. Then we have Ares. Ares is very interesting. We have a guy there that looks stunning, looks stylized, are all basically Voyager class figures. But to just set him up, leave him precariously on a shelf in the hopes that some of his tooling doesn't sort of fail on you and he topple over, is not going to fill the bill for me personally. And while I don't know what will happen with the upcoming Titan class official release, I do know this: I don't want a version personally of Predaking that stands at 2 feet tall or even at 18 inches. That kind of leaves me with two options. Three options, I guess. The KO version, the Feral Rex version, or the Warlord version. That is still a challenging choice to make. But I look forward to talking about this more with you guys. Like I said, undoubtedly Feral Rex is the king. And if you have experiences with any or all of these molds, I would love to hear what you have to say on it as well. We're going to look at a couple of these together. We're going to have a bit of fun. We're going to do some kind of modern comparisons. And hopefully by the end of it, it will either reinforce the choice that you made, or if you're still debating it, maybe it will inform you a little bit about the choice that you could make. Anyway, as always, thanks for dropping by. Thanks for giving me some of your very valuable time. It means so much, especially now. Please, again, hit that subscribe button. It is so very important. And as always, I very much look forward to the next time that you and I get together for another visit right here inside the videos.